A few days ago, I made a video entitled Soul Society Ichigo is a Monster. In that video, I took a thematic look at the character of Ichigo in the Soul Society arc, and presented you all with the reasons I believed Ichigo in Soul Society to be so compelling and popular. That video was great, but I'm not content with stopping there, because when it comes to the character of Ichigo, there's something new in every arc. And by the time this Ichigo series is done, you'll notice the thematic arc Kubo had in plan for Ichigo, and then you can decide if it's an overall positive character arc or a negative one. In today's video, I want us to cast our eyes to Arrancar arc Ichigo, because if Soul Society Ichigo is the first year rookie Soul Reaper full of hope, drive, and a strong determination to win, much like a first year college student full of bright optimism and naive positivity, Arrancar Ichigo is the reality check. He's the realization that things aren't going to get easier. He's the student who thought he had things figured out until assignments started piling on and life began to get tougher. He's the young adult who felt that they had their life under control until they ran into heartbreak, failure, and desperation. In short, Arrancar Ichigo is the depressed young adult who feels like the world is crumbling onto him. And I want us to observe Kubo's unique message about desperation as told through the character of Ichigo Kurosaki. I want to be very clear about the timeline I want to focus on. When I say Arrancar Ichigo, I'm only looking at the point in Bleach from when Ichigo returns to Karakura Town up to when Ichigo, Chad, and Uryu enter Hueco-Mundo. If Ichigo entering Hueco-Mundo to save Orihime is the Hueco-Mundo arc, I consider the events prior to that as simply put, the Arrancar arc. That's what I'm focusing on for this video. We'll head to Hueco-Mundo next. Ichigo returns back home after saving Rukia and his confidence is at an all-time high. I mean, the guy basically took on an entire military organization and managed to come out of it looking like the savior. Jushiro Okitake gave him a combat pass and instilled him as an official Soul Reaper in charge of Karakura Town. I'd say life hasn't been better. No casualties, he accomplished his mission, has attained Bankai, and is now an ally of the Soul Society. Kubo gives us a quick check on his parents and friends, and yep, Ishin is still Ishin. Kone's gonna Kone, but here's an underrated change that seemed to fly under the radar. Before the Soul Society arc, Ichigo seemed closer to Tatsuki, Keigo, and Mizuriro more than anyone else. He used to hang out with Chad, but it wasn't anything super close, at least it didn't feel that way to me. But now, after venturing into Soul Society with Orihime, Uryu, and Chad, their bond and friendship had been taken to a whole new level. I appreciate that subtle difference. But everything changes when Ichigo encounters Shinji Hirako, who wants Ichigo to join his elite group of Soul Reapers with hollow abilities, the Vizards. Ichigo initially declines Shinji's offer, but in the quiet moments after that, Kubo takes you into the mind of Ichigo and how he's coping with this problem. In chapter 190, as Ichigo is lying in bed, we find out that he already knew that his hollow was slowly becoming stronger. Ichigo knew that his hollow was creeping up from within, trying to take control of his mind and body. But the question I ask myself there is, if Ichigo knew about this from the start, why did we only see him start to be emotionally affected after his encounter with Shinji? If you've known from the beginning that your hollow is getting stronger, and still acted normal despite that, what is it that changed? I thought about it, and I think this is a classic case of something we're all guilty of. How many times do we run into an issue and think, it's probably nothing, it'll go away? How many times have we ignored a legitimate issue because we were too lazy or too afraid to face it head on? I think Ichigo felt confident that this entire hollow situation would blow over one way or another and decided to run from that confrontation. But when Shinji, a man who appeared to have been in Ichigo's very shoes, appeared before him and gave him that warning, suddenly, Ichigo could no longer avoid it. His sanity was in danger, and Ichigo began to do exactly what most people do when their emotional stability is threatened. He retreated into his shell and shut himself off from everyone. Keigo tries to get him to hang out and Ichigo says no. Ishin tries to cheer him up by having a brawl with Ichigo like he usually does, but Ichigo just takes the hit and goes to his room without eating dinner. Kone tries to find out what's wrong, but Ichigo turns him away as well. His actions were so anti-Ichigo that Karin comes to his room and confronts him about his Soul Reaper adventures. That is no small detail. Karin has known about Ichigo from an early stage, being someone who could sense spirits herself, but she always felt that Ichigo had things under control, so she never spoke up about it. Ichigo always seemed fine, so she let her brother just do his thing. But now, his family can see that Ichigo is going through a tough time and she tries to help her big brother. Their conversation is cut short by the arrival of the Arrancar, and Ichigo has to go confront them. He arrives just in the nick of time and saves Orihime and Chad from Yami. He unleashes his Bankai and slashes off Yami's arm. He's got things under control at that point when White tries to switch with Ichigo. The unstable focus caused by that internal conflict allows Yami to take control of the fight, and he brutally beats down Ichigo and smacks Orihime across the face. Luckily, Kisuke and Yoruichi come in for the save, but the damage has already been done. Ichigo is sinking deep into depression. At first, it was the fear that his hollow would overtake his mind and take control of his body, but now it's escalated to the point where Ichigo is unable to properly defend himself the way he usually does, and other people are getting hurt because of it. This compounds the negative emotions within Ichigo and he sinks even deeper into his shell. Things got so complicated that he couldn't even look Orihime in the eye. Let's let that sink in for a moment, because way too often, I see people undermine the struggle Ichigo is having during this time, and I think certain segments of our communities have simply become numb to terrible fictional situations. It's almost like right now, if you want to truly shock and awe your audience, you have to get really freaky and crazy, or else most of us will just not emotionally react. I fully understand you if that's how you feel about certain manga, but I must implore you to take a step back and understand what these moments mean in this context. Yami and Ukiura arrived in Katakura town, and Yami immediately sucks out the souls of hundreds of people in the area. They died. Chad tries to protect them and he fails, getting his arm crushed. Orihime tries to fight Yami with Tsubaki and loses him. Ichigo finally arrives at the scene and he too gets beaten by Yami, watching as Yami strikes Orihime so hard that she gets knocked out. People died here, and some were gravely injured. I don't know about you, but if I'm in that situation, I'm freaked out and I'm scared out of my mind. That is why Ichigo takes this so seriously, and that's why he can't bear to look Orihime in the face, because he feels like he failed her. In what was a very welcome sight, Rukia and other Soul Reapers come to Ichigo's aid, and Rukia takes Ichigo off somewhere to fight a hollow. This is one of the more controversial scenes in the Bleach fandom, because many Ichiruki fans cite that when Ichigo needed to be cheered up and set on the right path, it was not Orihime who helped him, but Rukia. And I'm not here to fight in any shipping war. I'm here to analyze the story as I see it, and in this situation, Rukia is 100% the right person to help Ichigo, because Ichigo just risked his life fighting an entire society to save her from unjust execution. Rukia drags Ichigo to a hollow and he fights against it. It's clear that the hollow isn't very strong, but Ichigo is hesitating because of his emotional instability. As he hesitates to draw his blade, Rukia tells him, and I'm quoting, "Chad and Orihime got hurt. So what? Is that what you are? A coward? A quitter? Are you that afraid of defeat? If you're afraid to lose, then get stronger. If you want to protect those you love, then do what you have to do to protect them. If the hollow inside you is so terrible, then get strong enough to crush it. Even if no one in the world believes in you, stick out your chest and scream in defiance. That's the Ichigo I know." And hey, everyone claps because yay, inspirational speech, but let's pump the brakes here. Pump the brakes and let's just think about this for a second. I know Rukia means well, I know she does, but all she's done here is give Ichigo weightless lip service. She doesn't say anything wrong, but she offers no tangible solution. It's like this: you're in school taking a test, and let's say you really tried on this one. You didn't slack off and you did your best. Days pass and the grades come through. You expectantly siphon through your papers or website to find your grade, and you find out that you failed the test. You're sad. You're distraught. Maybe you needed to ace a test in order to pass the class. Maybe you needed to do really well in this class to pursue some graduate level course and you failed. Now, let's say that one of your friends who didn't fail comes up to you and speaks to you. This friend of yours still means well. He's not trying to be fake or dishonest. They genuinely care and they try to make you feel better. They say, So what? You failed one test, so what? Get the next one. They say, if you're afraid to fail a test, then get smarter. Study harder. If you're that afraid of failing, then get so smart or study so hard that you crush and ace the next test. If no one believes in you, believe in yourself and scream in defiance. Do you see the off thing about this? All of these sentiments are good-natured and in theory, they're the key to fixing the situation. What they lack though, is actual solutions. These vague sentiments appeal to emotion but lack any coherent plan of realistically overcoming the obstacle before you. That's what Rukia gave Ichigo. He draws his blade and he cuts down the hollow. Now, he feels rejuvenated. He goes to Orihime and promises that he'll protect her. He feels better. He's the same old Ichigo again, having fun banter with Rukia, but allow me to ask you a question. Exactly what changed? What changed? Does Ichigo now have a plan? Or did he expect it to solve itself once he decided not to run away? Did he intend on speaking to Urahara? We don't know. Did he want to speak to his father about this? We don't know. What exactly did he expect to happen after being inspired by Rukia? Because nothing has been solved. Absolutely nothing. And when Grimmjow attacks Karakura Town, Rukia gets hurt and Ichigo battles Grimmjow only to be manhandled by Grimmjow. I mean, Grimmjow put the beat down on Ichigo like no one else in the series has. It was downright embarrassing. And his hollow was still there, creeping up from within, trying to attain control. So I ask again, exactly what did Rukia's comments do aside from making Ichigo feel better? This is the reality of depression in many of our individual lives. And Kubo is masterfully making a comment on the gravity of the situation. People around you who mean well might try to say things to help you and make you feel better. And maybe you feel better after hearing it. Maybe it inspires you to try again. Maybe it prompts you to do better. But without an actual solution for the problem, you're just going to fail again, as Ichigo did. So after having a reality check for the second time, what does he do? Same thing he always does. He retreats back into his shell yet again and stays there. He doesn't come home and no one knows where he is. He doesn't speak to anyone and he doesn't tell anyone where he goes. That is the reality of Ichigo's current situation. But amidst all his mistakes, Ichigo does make one good move here. He recognizes that the key to making the situation better isn't fancy lip service like Rukia gave him. It's not sitting at home feeling sad about his sorry state. No, it's action. Calculated action with the intent of coming up with a realistic solution to the problem at hand. And in this situation, the Vizards held the key to the solution. He meets with Shinji, and after a display of power, they decide to teach Ichigo how to control his hollow. It's now that we're actually progressing towards getting Ichigo out of his depressed state, because we've identified an actual solution to work towards. Emerging in his inner world, Ichigo faces off against the source of his despair, his hollow, White. We know from later chapters that White is in fact not Ichigo's enemy, but be that as it may, he is still the source of Ichigo's trauma at this point in time, and Ichigo has to find a way to overcome him. From White's perspective, he wants to make sure that Ichigo has the proper tools he needs in order to survive the battles that lay ahead, and wants to make sure that Ichigo has the quality White believes is most important in battle: instinct. Ichigo before this point lacked instinct. He lacked that cutting edge that drives warriors to slaughter and dominate their enemies. I mean, think about it. Against Ikkaku, Ichigo heals his wounds. Against Byakuya, Ichigo decides to take his sword away from Byakuya's throat because he's trying to prove a point. White isn't wrong when he says Ichigo lacks warrior instinct, and we can have a discussion as to whether Ichigo listens to White or creates his own version of instinct. But the point still stands that Ichigo lacks instinct. But after struggling within himself, after hearing the words of Kenpachi Zuraki, Ichigo adopts this instinct and dominates White, reclaiming control over his psyche. And therein lies Kubo's commentary on depression through the character of Ichigo. It starts as a problem Ichigo wants to avoid and ignore until an outside factor gives him a reality check about his situation. His first reaction is to retreat inward and disconnect from everyone on the outside. Kubo uses Rukia to give a warning about positive sentimentality and the limit it has. Nice words will only go so far, and unless it addresses the root of the problem, it's nothing but a temporary relief method. Ichigo himself consciously makes the decision to seek out the Visors, which is Kubo basically saying, you should ask for help, but not help that does nothing but make you feel better. Seek out help that will enable you to confront the root of the issue, and that's what Ichigo did. He asked for help from Shinji, and Shinji gave him the means to combat the source of his depression. And just like it is in real life to all of us, more often than not, our greatest enemy is ourselves and our lack of certain mental qualities. But Ichigo faced his fears, and he prevailed. And that gave him the victory he sought. Ichigo was no longer depressed. He became full of life, full of confidence, and full of energy. Not because he believed the road would suddenly become easier, but after that mental switch, he could feel the progress he was making, as shown in the amount of time he could remain hollified. Every step was a step in the right direction. And you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, Rebirth. Ichigo still lost after this point, so does any of this even matter? And you'd be right, Ichigo does lose to Grimmjow when they fight for the second time. But the difference between the two clashes is that one is a battle fought by a man who doubts his sword and is fighting while looking over his shoulder. The second is a battle fought by one who is now focused on a singular task, and even though he was still a ways off from perfecting this new ability, his progress was evident. We knew it, Ichigo knew it, and Grimmjow knew it. So at this point, Orihime is abducted, Ichigo wants to go save her, and he along with Chad and Uryu enter Wako Mundo. That is a separate Ichigo video that is yet to come. But for now, I hope you enjoyed my analysis on Arrancar Ichigo, Kubo's message about depression. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, guys. If you liked the video, please do like, comment, and subscribe. Share this with your friends. Tell someone about your boy and let's grow this community. This is the road to 15K. It's your boy Rebirth, signing off. Peace.